Alrighty, so what I'm going to talk about today is what I've been doing with my deadlift training lately. If some of you have seen, I've only been doing singles, and there's definitely a reason for that, because in the past, leading into meets and when I'm really just trying to peak my strength for deadlift, I do basically my own programming, but it involves a lot of 5s and 3s on my top sets for my rep schemes. Well, a few months back I had got some kind of ankle injury. I'm really not sure what it was. I have talked to some physical therapists about it and got a general idea of what it may be, but now I'm not so sure that's what it is. So anyways, for about 2 solid months I couldn't stand any heavy weight with squat or with deadlift. So as it slowly got a little bit better, I tried to come back and slowly ramp the weight back up so I could increase my strength, because that's what I'm all about, trying to get stronger and get that elite total. Well, I figured that one heavy rep is going to be less traumatic on my ankle than 3 heavy reps, or let alone 5 heavy reps. So I had to figure out a way, because I can't just go in and PR every week. That's stupid. You're just going to burn yourself out, burn your central nervous system up, and after about 1 or 2 weeks of doing that, you're going to actually start degressing and making less progress instead of progressing your PR. So I've been trying to implement some methods from conjugate training, which is basically involves a lot of variation. And when I got to thinking about variation, I basically thought I got to target my weakness on deadlift, which would be on the floor, because as a sumo puller, my lockout is the least of my worries. I can lock out a lot more weight than I can break off the floor. I've pulled 500 pounds off the floor with 200 pounds of band tension, so that's 500, well, with the bands it's probably 540-ish off the floor and about 700 at lockout. So my lockout is fine. I will never, ever, ever have a problem locking out a weight. But when I fell a weight, it's off the floor. If I can get it an inch off the floor, I can lock it out. But if I can't break that first initial inch, 2 inches off the floor, then I'm screwed. Then I'm not going to get it up. So what I've started doing is deficit deadlifts of about 1.5 inch deficit. Now, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I tried this out, and my PR, it was slow, you can see back on the channel, was 475. I've since then done a few more deadlift workouts, and yesterday I just PR'd with a 500 pound deficit deadlift, which is 25 pounds more. So that tells me that if my deficit deadlift is getting stronger, then that means that my freaking deadlift off the floor is also getting better. So today I figured up a little calculation and wrote it down. It's basically, what I figured out is 0.89% is my deficit for 100% floor, meaning 500 times or divided by 0.89 is 560. So I figure if I'm pulling 500 off the floor right now, my deadlift PR from the floor should be around 560. So I figured this out and worked it out and tried to account for getting used to deficit, and so it goes from 0.89% to 0.92 in the end of this. So I'm trying to account for getting accustomed to deficit deadlifts and it being less and less of a shock, therefore less and less of a difference in the percentage between my 100% from the floor and my 89% calculated deficit deadlift, if that makes sense. So I figured out, 500 deficit is going to equal around 560 from the floor. 525 deficit should equal around 580 from the floor. And by the time I can pull 555 from a deficit, I should theoretically be able to get 600 on deadlift. So 600 pound deadlift in the 165 pound weight class is going to be a huge goal and huge accomplishment for me in 2015. And also obviously just trying to get that 1400 total, which is the raw total for an elite 165 lifter. So just wanted to share with you guys what was going on, why I hadn't been going heavy in a few months, and now how I'm trying to get that back. So yeah, and I recently just squatted 440 pounds, which is crazy because I hadn't squatted that heavy in 2 months, but trying to work on weaknesses. I worked on form and paused squats, paused in the hole. So between those two things, something worked, and I PR'd with 440. And my ankles are, honestly, they're still hurting, but they're hurting less so that I can kind of push through it. And I really don't know, they could flare back up, but hopefully they keep getting better slowly. It's been months and they're still not better, but hopefully the pain stays low enough that I can keep progressing. So I just wanted to tell you guys what's up, and hope you enjoy and follow my progress.